Good evening and welcome to CM Performing Arts Center's online speaker series, CM Spotlight. My name is Tim Pappalardo. I'm your host. Thank you for joining me this evening. So, last week we chatted with actor, magician, producer, and star of True TV's The Carbonaro Effect, Michael Carbonaro. If you missed that interview, you can look back at it on CM's Facebook and YouTube pages. So, tomorrow, we have some really big news to share. It's our launch party for season 47. Look at all those empty frames. We are going to be announcing our upcoming season. And here to chat with me is my favorite gal pal, CM's executive director, Elise Arpino.
Hi.
Hi, Elise. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing well. I am a little sun-kissed. I was sitting out in the sun and enjoying the day today. It was a beautiful day.
I know it's finally starting to get warm. The wind is dying down.
Yes, and exactly. It feels like summer. It feels like summer.
Wait.
So, Elise, so exciting. We have a couple of we have a couple of frames here to fill. Oh, so it's our 47th season. So exciting. Could you imagine that we're already at 47 already?
No. So exciting. So exciting.
So tell me about it. Tell me about it.
So this is so exciting for so many reasons. So I know, I'm sure like some of you, this new normal has kind of forced us into cleaning out things that an old drawer or a closet or something like that. So in the midst of getting ready for our launch party tomorrow, I happened to be cleaning out a box that had season 22 in it from CM.
What shows were they?
Crazy. Actually, I lied. It was season 20. Actually, I found 22 and 20. But a bunch of old stuff I never knew I had.
Nice.
I know. It had Teen Les Mis was in it.
Mm.
The Magic of Michael Carbonaro. Ta-da! Yeah. And Oklahoma was coming up. I'm trying to think of what else. Unbelievable things. What was so cool is to see where we were and where we are now and how we've gotten here. And the amount of love and support and how there's always a constant in our organization of volunteers and people who love CM. And what's so amazing about tomorrow's launch and what's so exciting is it's a little taste of normalcy back again. It's a little like that little spark of hope that we are coming back and we are getting ready to reopen. And right now, our plan is for summer, that this is going to be our big summer launch. And unless, we have to adjust our timeline for any other reason, we're excited. We can't wait to bring you the shows, to get our actors back in the building, and just to have everybody back together. So it's really exciting. It's an exciting launch tomorrow night.
So there are 4 shows here.
There are.
Can you tell us one?
No. That would be cheating. No, you have to come. The really cool thing too is the format is something that you're going to be familiar with. Mm-hmm. So it's something that you're used to, but in a new way with the digital virtual stuff we've been doing. And so I could absolutely not tell you. Tell me.
Yeah, Patrick. It's safe to say he would come and find you. Be like, what did she say on the broadcast?
No, it's our super secret code, so. Yeah.
So it's so exciting. So that is tomorrow, the CM launch party, tomorrow, Friday, the 22nd, 8 p.m., right here on CM's Facebook and YouTube pages, right?
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, cool. So join us tomorrow for the launch, season 47. I never know which direction you're supposed to go.
Tomorrow.
So, Elise, I also need to say, as everybody has heard, we are fundraising. We are currently at the $15,000 mark, a little bit over that, maybe 15. 4. But we had to get to 50,000. So we're just going to do a soft little push. That if you have donated today, if you've donated in the past, thank you so much. If you have not yet donated, kindly consider donating to CM. Any dollar amount helps. It really, really does.
Yeah. And we thank you if you already have so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Elise, thank you so much for stopping in. Is there anything that you want to say to our amazing panel of folks that are here? I'm just gonna throw this.
I know.
Look at these people.
Fun crew today. I know. I'm excited.
It's gonna be so fun. So Elise, thank you.
You're welcome.
And we will talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Bye. So Elise Arpino, fantastic lady. So without further ado, let's get this spotlight underway. So he recently just finished a contract with Disney Cruise Lines. He played numerous characters. You might know one of the characters. It was Blue, and he grants wishes. Not going to say the character name, but anyway, please welcome Anthony Arpino.
Hey,
welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to be here.
Thanks to be here. So, thanks for having me be here. So, our next guest, she rocked the high seas for 10 years as a singer, a dancer, and she is now part of the Playlist Productions as a casting and booking supervisor. They actually manage the casting for the production shows for Carnival. Please welcome Simone Catalano.
Hey.
Hi, nice to see you. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to introduce everybody, and we're gonna jump right into our talk. So the next person, she performed with AIDA Cruise Lines. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. She's singing. She was singing in numerous productions. Isn't she absolutely adorable? She also she sang in multiple languages, English and German, from singing music of rock to classic Broadway. Please help me in welcoming Emily Hannaway.
Hello, Tim.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So our next panelist, he actually literally right before this whole lovely epidemic we're in was on his first cruise contract with Disney, and he performed on the Disney Magic, and he was friends with Hook Hand. He'll explain that. Please welcome, there he is, Bobby Montaniz. Did I say your last name right? I butcher everyone's names.
Montaniz.
Okay, yeah. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. That's a great picture.
Don't worry, it's gonna come back up. It's gonna come back up. And so our final guest this evening, she performed on CM's Children's Theater. She served as musical director for numerous years in CM Productions. She moved over into the cruise ship industry, working full-time as a crew member for Norwegian Cruise Lines from 13 to 16, held positions like the company manager, production stage manager on smaller ships. She performed a lot on the side, and she created choirs in her time off. And now she's working with RWS Entertainment Group, and she's on the producing side for entertainment for Holland America Line. Please welcome. I'm scrolling down. Jennifer Roller.
Hey Tim. Hey y'all.
Hi everybody. Hi Jen, thanks so much for being here, and everybody, thank you all for being here. So I'm gonna raise a glass. It's wine. Cheers to all of you. If anybody has something here, cheers.
I wish.
Well, cheers. Well, Emily, then I'll drink water with you then.
Thanks. Yeah, I
cheers.
don't have a drink up here. Man.
That's one of the best things about being on a cruise ship. I know as a guest is like there is always someone ready to get you a drink. That's always.
Crew member though, it's the same.
Well, that's different. Like, so from my understanding, that it's not the same. It's definitely not the same experience as a cast member, crew member, as it is for guests, and we're going to hear all about that today. So again, everybody, thank you so much for being here. So how are you all doing? Where are all of you? Chime in whenever.
I'm on Long Island, staying at my parents' house. We kind of escaped the city. It was a bit too dangerous, we felt there. So, yeah.
And you're in New York City?
I'm in Astoria, Queens.
Cool.
Yeah.
And is everyone doing okay at the Hannaway house?
Everyone's good. We're all good. We're bearing with each other as much as we can.
Where is everybody else?
Yeah, I did the same thing as Emily. I'm next door in Woodside.
Okay.
And it's, it gets a little cramped in a tiny little apartment. So I'm here, my dad's house, my old room, just spending some good quality time.
Is that, are you in your bedroom? Because it looks like to me, like I thought you were on like a set, because it looks so coordinated with
it's practically a set.
With the country kitchen.
Is real vintage childhood 1992 wallpaper, all the color. You wonder why I was so hyper. This was my childhood wallpaper.
Wait, we'll zoom in. That is some pretty amazing. That's amazing. Simone, where are you?
I'm in Florida. We're in our condo that we just bought like about 2 years ago. So we're here. Been here since 14th of March.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So how are things in Florida? Because we've seen all the videos of people going to the beach. Are you going to the beach?
No, we're here. Like, we actually live in a really quiet neighborhood. We're in Jacaranda. It's part of Plantation, Florida. Very boring, but nobody in my building is here. They're all snowbirds. So we're really alone. So, and it's beautiful weather. So we just sit outside and take each day as it comes, and get Instacart deliveries.
What's everyone's favorite thing right now? If you had to pick one thing out of that you're eating, you're drinking, what's something that you guys are all into now?
My family has like a chopped kitchen every night, where it's like we take all the scraps of food and see what crazy meals we can come up with. Because you have a little bit of chicken from here, rice left over from here, some vegetables left over, and you're like, all right, I could probably make some sort of something out of this.
And I feel you. We do that for Christmas. We got the foodie, that like air fryer thing.
Yeah.
Throw it in there, and we're like, this is the best. Every time, Gordon Ramsay, your heart out.
Like, I felt the same way at times. I'm like looking around the kitchen. I'm like, I feel like I'm on like Chopped, but there's no one to evaluate. My partner and I watched the Best Bake, like the British baking show, and there are times where like I've made something, and I'll flip over the bread and I'll just scrape the bottom, like do my best Paul Hollywood impression.
Good bake.
So what is everybody doing to pass the time with social distancing? What is your day like in the pandemic?
I go on a lot of walks. Me and my husband have been going on a lot of walks, which is really nice because normally we probably wouldn't do that. So it's nice to, I said, I'm like, we should continue like going on like nice long walks more. He probably won't want to, but it's nice to get out rather than just like going from point A to point B, from the house to the store. It's a lot of in-between time. But I am bored. I do want to go back to the store, so don't get me wrong. Yeah. But it's all good.
Right. Yeah, same here. We definitely go on a lot of walks. We have a little puppy. So he takes up our entire life.
Aww.
It's the first time he's been home with both of us for like hours at a time. So he's like, "Why are you still here away?"
What type of puppy is it?
He is a Yorkie. I won't let him. He'll just start yelling at me. So he just wants attentions.
We go on a ton of walks too. But also Animal Crossing has been my like new saving grace.
Like everyone's on it. I gotta get on the bandwagon.
Yeah, it's like a mix of like Sims and I don't even know Minecraft, and like it makes you like feel like you're outside, even though you're not. Like you open a window, so there's a little bit of a breeze, but then like you just make an entire island and just try to remember what it felt like to be outside.
This is a perfect example of something that I feel like I missed, having been on ships for years. I'm just catching up on like cable TV. I'm like, when did this show happen? Like came up, had 2 seasons, it was canceled, and I didn't even know it occurred.
Yeah.
So I'm just catching up on these things. I'm like, Animal Crossing, let me look that up. I have internet, I'm going to look it up with the internet.
Isn't it weird not sitting at a coffee shop and downloading everything you can?
Honestly.
So weird not doing that.
Yep.
So what is that? So because I know exactly what you're talking about, but like, so today we are going to be talking about life as a performer on the high seas. So, hearing all about that, but so you just talked about internet. What's the whole story behind the internet for crew members? What's that story? Like the one, Simone, the one that you just brought up, which was.
Well, I mean, like being on ships for so long, like after your first contract's all exciting, so you want to like explore the islands, and then your next contract you have the same run, so you're like, I've been to these beaches all the time, so I'm just gonna go to this cafe that has really good internet and sit and download everything I can. Yeah. The TV on the ship is just the same show over and over and over. There's only so much HGTV you can watch.
But now you can build a house.
I know. Right?
The majority of cruise lines, we're charged for internet. So you get a certain amount of megabytes or a certain amount of minutes or something like that. And you're actually paying as you go. Sometimes as a crew member, you get a little bit of a better deal. I know some of the newer cruise lines are starting to offer free internet, but it's, you really pick and choose what you do. There's a lot of things. You can't stream things. There's a lot of limit to what you can do with ship internet. So, what Simone is talking about is, you get off the ship, and I often will say, guests will say, where do I get internet on land? I'll say, just follow the crew members, because everybody's looking for free internet, because we're trying not to spend all our money on internet while we're on the ship.
It adds up. It really adds up.
Yeah, and you hold those cards close. You don't tell them the real place.
No. Don't take my internet.
That's so funny. I remember being on the cruise ships and asking people like, so where's the best place for internet? And be like, I don't know.
Funny story about that you've all been to Cozumel, yeah? Rock and coffee shop. So my last cruise as a performer, I was sitting there and I look up, and all of a sudden I see Erin Adele sitting across from me. And I was like, what are you doing here? And she was performing on Disney shit. It was her last cruise as well. It was so bananas. But that's what I love about being on a cruise ship. I've run into people that I've worked with in Smithtown Performing Arts Center or CM, these islands. I'm like, what are you doing here? This is so weird. But it's so bad. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Well, so everybody, thank you. Thank you again for being here. I want to know how did you guys all get involved in theater?
Ooh. How? That's got me.
In the beginning?
Yeah, how did it happen?
Oh.
But then, back then, yeah.
So I could start if you like. I actually started with sports, and Elise, my sister, she did theater. And the first thing I ever did was Tiny Tim at CM when I was in 3rd grade, and I didn't even know anything about it. And my mom kind of just brought me, and they needed a little kid for Tiny Tim, and I was like, all right, whatever. So that was my first kind of delve into theater. Yep, there she is. But the first time I ever kind of knew that I wanted to pursue this was actually with Elise. And she was in for Tracy on Broadway in Hairspray 13 times. And I remember there was one time where she was headed to a callback, and we were sprinting down 8th Avenue. And I was like, this is amazing. This is the rush of adrenaline, running down the street, dodging cars to try and make it to the audition room was just so thrilling. And I was like, oh man, this is amazing. So it kind of kickstarted me, and I kind of owe it to her.
That's awesome.
That is. Yeah, mine started at CM actually. And it was just,
That's
I just sang since like I could speak. And we always went to go see shows, whether that be local community theater or Broadway shows. My parents were always taking us, and I just always loved it. And then I guess my parents saw an ad for the camp program at CM. And it was directed by Ryan Nolan, Ronnie Green, and Heather Van Belser. It was leader of the pack. I wore a big red wig and lived my best life. So that's kind of how I started. And I loved it from then on. And yeah, that's kind of just how I think I got started. Oh, there I am. This is a sexy Little Red Riding Hood.
Look at her.
Yikes.
Of course it is.
CM actually played a big role in me starting theater too, even though I didn't perform a lot at CM. I actually remembered, Tim, I think I'm right about this. Back in the day, Christina Diorda, I think, did a production of Godspell, and she'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it was at St. Joseph's. And my grandparents and my friends had surprised me for my birthday. And I think it must have been maybe my 11th or 12th birthday. And I just showed up like to see this play. All my friends were there. So it was like my two favorite things. You know, I grew up, you know, tap dancing when I was 3, as every Long Island girl does. And, you know, and I was a choir. I just did choir. You know, I had an amazing music program with the William Floyd School District. And I really didn't know about theater. We didn't have a theater program. So I got to go see these shows. And I remember, I brought it. I did a show with Christina several years ago. And I brought this T-shirt because I had the whole cast sign it. And it says, you know, happy birthday, Jennifer. And it was such a memorable experience. And from then on, I was like, okay, I got it. I got to do that. I want to do that. And so I little by little got into it. But CM definitely played a big role.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. And I think I was in that show. And you were 11 years old.
Oh, I got to find this shirt. Okay.
So how did everyone get introduced to CM? I know, Emily, you just shared how you did. Simone, how did you get introduced to CM?
Well, funny story. I went to Connecticut High School, and Noelle would do the musicals for the high school. So when I was actually in junior high school, they were doing a production of 42nd Street. Oh, there I am. And they needed a big cast, so they let everyone from the junior high audition, which I was really good friends with Tom Filicardi. I don't know if you remember Tom, but he convinced me because I was in dance. I went to David Sanders Dance Dynamics with Felice a million years ago, Petite Company and all. And I had never, ever sang like in front of anybody before, like ever. And I never forget the day, like, we auditioned and they were like, oh, we did the tap dance. Great. All good. You can be in the show. Well, Miss Simone, is that your name? Come forward. We need you to sing this line.
Oh my God.
Like a mouse. Oh, Jenny, cute. I was like a mouse. I sang so quiet. And he's like, well, you're going to have to sing louder than that, but you could be in the show. And I was like, okay, I'm good. And I was front and center. I actually just found a video and I was trying to get it on my computer to share, but I was front and center in that show, and I made like friendships of a lifetime. Rob Buchwald's in it, Sonny Palladino was in it, Jane Monheim was in it, and Michael Carbonaro I met that year, and it was all these amazing people that brought me into CM after that, and I never left.
Amazing. Bobby, how did you hear about CM?
I had worked at a few theaters around the island before I did CM. The first thing I ever did there was Bell in 2014. And that was my first introduction, like doing those there. And it was so much fun. It is still to this day one of my favorite things that I've ever done theatrically. Some of my like very best friends came from that show, and it was that special to begin with, but like that production just gets so special to art. Yeah, so that was like my first like breaking in at CM.
So with all the interviews that I've done 11 interviews with CM Spotlight, and everybody it's safe to say that everybody has an amazing, like, this was the best show of my my life. This was the best experience. Why, and people are always so positive. Why do you think that is? Why do people think that is?
At CM specifically?
Yeah, at CM specifically.
Well, I think CM, compared to like other theaters that I've worked at, has a much more family atmosphere. And it's a lot about teamwork and a lot about not just about like the product that you're putting out on stage, but like the relationships with everyone is almost even more of what it's about, which I think is so good and so important, because you don't only want to love what you're doing, you want to love the people that you're around doing it with. And that just makes the experience 1,000 times better. When you're working with people you don't get along with, or that you don't feel that they're welcoming you with open arms, it's just not as nice. I mean, honestly. But yeah, I've always had that sense of family and connection and teamwork from CM.
I agree.
And there are so many people who have come through CM at one time. You have access to so many people. So I know, I mean, for me, my biggest highlight was a musical directing Hairspray, which was kind of a milestone for CM because it was the first show, I think, without a live orchestra with track. And so everybody was very, very banded together and like, we got to get this together. And it seems like, you're a little bit more involved in that process, and people then become more invested rather than just show up and sing your role and go do your show. You're more invested in the final product because you feel that family thing.
Definitely. I agree.
Simone, Ellen Dumlow just chimed in. Simone was one of the first rock stars in children's theater when we did Schoolhouse Rock. And you and I talked about all these shows this afternoon that we had done or each had participated in, and that we didn't even talk about that one.
I know. Well, it was the first part I actually ever got. Like, first time I had a solo, and I still to this day will never forget those lyrics. Suffering suffrage. Like, I still think about it, and I wore those silly, ridiculous platform sneakers.
That was the first thing I was going to say. Do you remember those black platform sneakers?
Oh.
Do you remember the line?
Not fully. Like, I can still hear the rhythm, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So, everyone, what was your? I've asked this question, and it's so fun to hear. What was your go-to audition song when you were growing up?
Oh.
Someone
like you from Jekyll.
Go girl.
Mine was always Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat.
Ooh.
Mine was also Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat.
Character actors.
Simone, what was yours?
It was always Spark of Creation or Alone.
Character actors.
But my favorite is when they're like 16 bar cut, and they're like, we don't have time. It's like 18 bars, so you just like hold that one note. My favorite. Like, okay.
So, what's a favorite memory that everybody has at CM? At CM specifically.
I loved playing Janis Joplin. I think that was like my favorite thing. But my favorite thing after that was getting to share the stage with Amanda Hawker and doing it together at the one of the reunions that we had. That was like really, really cool. Really cool. I think it was at after Noelle had passed and we did that show together. It was like the best moment ever just to do that. And I don't always think of that.
Aww.
Yes.
I'd have to say mine, not like a show moment, but just a moment that pops into my head that just surpasses it all, was right when I was doing hair. It was like a few days after hair closed. I remember we all had a cast party at Noelle's house the last night of the show. And a few days later, well, actually at the cast party, Noelle said, next week, come to my office. I want to talk to you. I went to his office and he said to me, because I was in college at this point as well. And he said to me, Emily, I never want to see you on my stage ever again. And I was like, what? And it was just kind of like like a send-off, I guess. And he said to me, he's like, you are destined for better things. I don't want to see you here anymore. I want to see you doing bigger things from this point on. And that was actually one of the last conversations I had with Noelle. So that's something that sticks out to me, and that's a memory that like just sits very close to my heart.
Wow, that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, that's something I won't forget. Love that.
When we've talked about Noelle throughout the series, and the one thing is that what we've been hearing is that Noelle knew how to work with people. He knew how to be. He knew how to pull the best talent out of everyone. But then he also was realistic, and he was real, and he was direct, and he would tell you exactly what he should tell you as a friend, as a mentor. And that conversation that you just shared, Emily, it sounds exactly like you'd want to have someone say to you, like, yes, you started with us, and now you're moving on to bigger and better things, and don't come back until you've done those things. Because we want you back, but just not now.
No. In a few years, okay.
Exactly.
One of my favorite memories was, so I had done Tiny Tim, but then left theater for a while, played sports throughout high school, and one of my first shows back to CM, my first show back to CM was Les Mis, Teen Les Mis, and I was Jean Valjean, and it was, that alone was an amazing experience. And then when the full rights to Les Mis came out, and the Noelle's last production, I was Enjolras, and to do that show for the first time as one character with him and kind of do that whole production and then be a part of his last production and have him pass away right in the middle of it was so unreal, because it's just to start out with him, and everyone kind of rallied together in that cast, and it was so incredible, and it showed the true family of CM. Where, it would have been very easy to be like, okay, let's put this on hold and figure it out later. But we knew we needed to do it because Les Mis was something that was very special to Noelle. And to kind of see that through and be a part of that was an experience I'll never forget.
Aw.
And you were fantastic in that. I remember that show. That production, that had some powerhouses, and you were right at the forefront. The team production, that's the one that I just went, who was this kid?
Not
an easy role to step off of the sports field on and to step into.
Oh man, it was spectacular. It really was.
Thanks.
Simone, do you have a story?
Well, there's so many, isn't there? Well, I think one, an exciting part, I'll never forget, I was living in Manhattan and I was working at a bar. And I was like, I'm just so sick of this. I want to go back to theater. I just couldn't afford it. I get a call from Noelle. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in the middle of a shift. What's up? Like, is everything all right? He's like, I need an Anita. And I was like, hey, what's up? He's like, you have 3 days to learn the part. Well, yes. I didn't even question. I was like, what? Yes. Okay. I'll be on Long Island tomorrow. And it was like a whirlwind, but probably my way back into doing theater, because I just kind of stopped for a while and was just, I had 3 jobs just to pay the rent, and it just wasn't for me anymore. And Noelle gave me that chance to make it worth it again, and I never turned back after that. Doing theater, it might not have been my brightest moment, but it was it was incredible. It was Nicky Sanchez and working with him and doing all that together, and Noelle it was the first time he had asked me ever. I was always kind of the underdog, and he went, Simone, I need you for this. And I was like, okay, yes, thank you, Noelle. Thank you so much.
It's a great feeling when that happened, when you got that call, right? It felt good.
No one will ever understand, aside from us that have worked with him and there, what an honor that is. I don't know. It's just the best, and very blessed to grow up in that community, I think.
No, I think you totally nailed it on the head. I mean, that was the beauty about Noelle, and I think you don't realize how great you have it until it's not there anymore. And Noelle was just a very, very special individual and hard to replace. However, CM is doing, Patrick Grossman has stepped into a fantastic role for him as our artistic director. Elise Arpino is, now our executive director, and we have a really great team in place that is leading the organization and continuing what I know that Noelle would be extremely proud of. So I would ask you guys. We've asked this question. This is fun to hear. What's the last thing you do right before you go on stage?
Chug water. That's really it. And go. Yeah.
I shake my hands. I shake them. Shake them off. Go.
I'm usually the class clown, so I'll usually like go and like poke someone or like do something that I shouldn't be doing and then walk on stage.
I've grown this habit of like right when places is called, like just in case. And then I always brush my teeth before I go on stage. It's very weird. I don't know.
I also brush my teeth right before I go on stage.
Good.
It's being nice to your fellow actor.
I know.
Very kind.
It's a courteous habit.
Frank Gabriel, who was on a couple weeks ago with the episode of The Boys, said he vocalizes, but then Craig Boscia said exactly the same thing that you said, Simone.
Yeah. I mean, like, what if? Like, I mean, could you imagine playing the narrator and halfway through you're like using your diaphragm and you're like, uh-oh, I wish this would break. No?
So what role do you think that community theater plays in the education of performers?
Like all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly. I learned so much more in community theater than I did in college.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that.
Yeah.
Because you're actually doing it. You know what I mean?
Life experience.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah. I even look back now. My parents would kill me to hear this, and they're watching probably. But like, I probably could have just not even gone to college. Because really, I mean, no, but it's true. I just feel like doing it, and there's more passion that way as well. You're not working for like a grade. You're working because you love it, and it's a totally different feeling. And I bow down to community theater for all that I learned to prep me for my career. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I didn't go to college for anything, and I just started doing community theater like full time. Like I would be doing like a day rep show, a children's theater show, and a main stage show all at one theater or at different theaters. And it taught me a lot about time management, and like it built your endurance. And some of these theaters will do these runs that will last, weeks upon weeks, like, or months. And they have double shows, triple shows, like 6-show weekends. And it builds your endurance. And I don't know, there's just something like exciting about it. And it's very, what Emily said, it's like I was doing it for either no money or little money because I wanted to be doing it. And I would rather have been doing that than school.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, the majority of my theater experience came from community and regional theater. I did not do a lot of professional theater. I hardly did anything even behind the scenes, which is what I'm doing now professionally. But I was ready to go when someone said, "Okay, you're going to go do this on a cruise ship." I said, "Okay." I had no idea what I was doing on a cruise ship, but I learned all of those roles because you kind of have to. One day you're, go run this soundboard. Oh, you mean I'm music directing and sound designing? Okay. So it's just things like that where you do it and you make it happen. And it's that make it happen mentality that you still need in the professional world, especially on ships.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely lays the groundwork for, if you start young enough and you watch those people who have the lead roles or those people that have parts, and you kind of sit back and watch and say, okay, what can I do to make myself better to be in their position? Okay, what do I need to do? What are they doing that I can help myself? And then when you kind of go to get a little older and those roles you kind of come to age, you kind of know, okay, this is how this person act, good and bad, okay, this person did this and they didn't have the greatest attitude about it, but if I come at it this way, maybe I'll have a better experience. And you kind of learn how to cope with different situations.
Yep.
Definitely.
Oh, there's a puppy.
Well,
Simone,
just
you were gonna. I think you were gonna say something when both you and Anthony started talking at the same
Oh
time.
no, yeah, I agree with Bobby. Like when he was talking about building endurance and stuff. I mean, you never like, especially now we're going on a cruise ship. When like people were complaining about doing 2 to 3 shows a night, I'm like, I've done like 5 shows in a day.
Yeah.
There's nothing, you know. Like, and it really does. I totally agree with that.
So people in the audience, if you have a question for this fantastic panel, please throw it into the Facebook question section, and we will bring those into the live interview. We have a lot of things that are being chimed in. Like for example, Hans just wrote, "I brush my teeth too."
I love it.
Good job, buddy.
So if you have nice teeth, if you have questions, please throw it into the question section, and we will bring them in as we go along.
I have a question for you, Tim.
Oh, sure.
Is my father's couch still at CM? That like maroon couch that's in the waiting room that's been there for years.
I can safely say that CM had a beautiful renovation of our lobby. The space is absolutely gorgeous and is a great welcoming space for our audience. And unfortunately, that couch may not be there.
It was there a long time. You all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we all know that couch.
Yeah.
It may not be there now, but it's there in spirit. But most likely, we probably didn't throw it out. It's probably in the back of the storage unit, waiting for some very regal show to come out.
It'll show up at a show one day, and you'll be like, "There it is!
This is my legacy."
That's my couch. Oh my God. So everyone, what was your first cruise contract? Bobby, let's start with you because you literally just finished yours. But what's your first cruise contract?
My first one was on the Disney Magic. I had auditioned for, so they do their auditions, like they'll do the 2 sister ships out of the 4 that they have. They'll do them like 2 at a time. I went for the 2 that I wound up not being on the ship for. So I'm pretty sure I was like a replacement for someone, because these processes usually take a few months to like kind of clear you medically and everything. I auditioned in late September, and I was in Toronto rehearsing the day before Halloween. So it happened fast. And I was in Toronto for 10 days. 5 or 6 of those was classes on, just safety drills and all of this stuff and cruise ship safety. And then the show that I did, that I was a part of, it was a restaurant dining experience show. So I was not in any of like the big production shows, but it was a smaller rehearsal process. So I was there for realistically 10 days, and then I was back here, and then I was on the ship. And then we were there from December 2nd, and I was supposed to be done May 4th. And then coronavirus happened, and then we were kind of floating around for a little less than a month before I got off the ship on April 8th. But it was truly the most fun I've ever had working. I see why people do this for years and years and years and years. And when I have friends that would say that they've done it they'll come back to land and they'll go right back out. I'm like, how are you doing this? And then now that I've done it, I'm like, oh no, like I see it, like I completely get it. It was the most fun I've ever had. And like working for Disney is just such a, like the nostalgic like kid in me it was like everything I ever dreamed. And it was just so cool. And just like that kind of guest experience is so different than anything else that I've done, because it's all these people that want that magic, that nostalgia, it was amazing. I had the best time, and I would go back right now if I could.
That
was so cute.
That was so sweet.
So Disney experience. So because everyone here has worked for a different cruise line, right? Bobby, I know you worked for Disney. Anthony, you worked for Disney. Jen, you worked for Norwegian, right?
Yes, I was on board for Norwegian, and then I've done some producing for other Holland America and some other lines.
Cool. Emily, you were with AIDA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a European.
Yes, a German-speaking cruise line, which is fun. Yeah.
Right. And Simone, you were with Carnival.
Carnival Cruise Lines, yes.
Do you find that those who work in the cruise industry stick to one brand and stay with one brand?
It depends on your experience, but I don't. So I mean, I just fell into it, and it just kind of, I don't know. I was going to do one contract, and 13 years later, here I am.
Yeah, it depends as well.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll. In the midst of it, I'll audition for Norwegian or whatever, and then I met my wife, and she was a dancer, and let's just stay. And Carnival's our family now, and it's like, oh, there she is. And we've grown with the company, and it's been super awesome.
So it's interesting that because you've met your wife on your ship. Emily, you have met your husband on your ship, and a question I was going to ask later is that a lot of people find love while they're on while working. So how did that happen for the two of you?
Well, it was my first contract, which was on a ship called the Aida Aura, and my husband was on contract number 3, I think. Yes, contract number 3 at that point. And we met in Germany. So my cruise line rehearses in Hamburg, Germany. So you live there for about 2 months to rehearse all your shows, and then they get you on your ship. So we met during that process. And for me, I was 19 years old. I'd never been to Europe. I've never traveled on my own. This was all like a whole new world for me. Oh my God, these pictures I haven't seen in so long. A whole new world for me. And he was so seasoned at this. He's been doing it and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, things move quickly on ships as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
So Simone, so you met your wife performing in the same show?
No, we a lot of ships do overnights in Nassau, Bahamas, and I was on a smaller ship. She was actually on the flagship at the time called the Dream, and some mutual friends and I had organized a dinner. So I ended up going on her ship to kind of tour it and see this. I've never been on such a big ship before, and it was my 3rd contract. I think she had been with the company a couple of years, and we just went to dinner, and I don't know, that Australian accent.
Oh yeah, the accent as well. My husband's British, so I mean,
it's huge, especially coming from a place where everybody sounds the same.
Yeah.
Everybody talks the same, like Teresa Caputo, and then you go onto the ship, and you're like, why does everybody sound like that? My accent got a lot stronger, and then you're like, can you just say that again?
Just
can you
keep
talk like that?
And they're like, I love the New York accent. I'm like, ugh.
Please don't lie to me.
Okay, great.
Don't lie to me.
No,
Move on.
I know, and it happened fast, but I mean, that was 10 years. We've been together 10 years now, so.
Wow.
Amazing. So, okay, so you audition, you have the rehearsal, Emily, for you in Hamburg, you're there, you get on the ship, you're performing. Once the show is mounted, what's happening? What's do you rehearse on this ship? Are you consistently, are things changing? Are you running? Are people what happens once you're on the ship? With the shows.
So as soon as you get on, I know for me personally, the line I worked for, as soon as you get on, you're doing installs ASAP. So you get on the ship, you drop your stuff in your cabin, you go to the stage. Because you got to start staging everything in the space because you've been working in the studio for the past however many months or weeks. And I know for us, every single day, different show premiered. So every day you were up at 9 a.m. putting in the show up until showtime pretty much. For at least the first 2 weeks, depending on how many shows you're doing. After that, you have rehearsals here and there. Somebody might be out sick, so you got to restage for that night. You kind of always have to be on call in case, you need to cover someone else's full track or you need to do a different track. But once you're kind of in the swing of things, it's really just a lot of fun. And I know on mine, we did a lot of partying.
I don't know what you're talking
So Emily mentioned installs. That's our little slang word. I know people are like, "What are you talking about installs? Are you installing art?" We're like, well, yes, but when you have like a cast changing over, or you're putting in new shows onto a ship, basically that Hell Week that we would have on land is what we call an install on a ship. So we're installing new people, new cast, new shows, and it's go, 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 because basically those guests who are on that during that install week, they don't care that you're not ready to go.
Wow.
They're expecting a show on day 2, day 3, welcome aboard. So you're ready to go, you know?
It might be your first show, but doesn't matter. Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8.
So for Disney, we have we do the 2 months up in Toronto, Canada, where we rehearse. They have a rehearsal facility up there, and then we have a 2-week. We call it a cast crossover. So the outgoing cast will do the production shows at night, where the incoming cast will rehearse throughout the entire day, and then after those 2 weeks, the new cast takes over. Yeah. And then we do.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is that different for everyone else?
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, we have a similar, as Anthony was just saying. We do a cast change. We have a facility. Actually, we moved here near the facility because my wife is a dance supervisor and teaches shows. So we rehearse in the facility, and then my previous position, I was a show supervisor. So I was on the ship with the new cast for 2 weeks, and we do like a handover. So the first week of that 2 weeks, we would slowly take over shows. So the previous cast would do like 2 production shows, and then we'd do the other 2. And then the following week, we'd open the rest. So then the new cast would take over the whole thing. Which in years when I first started, we would be, I think it was like 4 to 6 weeks, we would be on the ship with the entire other cast rehearsing and learning. And that's just not like, it just wasn't conducive to like, I think the new process is so much better. We try to align with other cruise lines, and now we have this amazing facility that we can just do that, and it's so much easier to just take over.
Being able to overlap, I mean, that's a luxury because, we're dealing with where are you going to put these people? Right. If you've got a sold out ship and you've got only a certain number of cabins, sometimes you only have enough to fit one cast in for the other cast. So in my opinion, if you get that process, it's ideal.
Right. It was so hard back in the day, like when we had 16 cast members plus 16 more, and like 4 or 5 of us packed in a cabin, like we just did it, But now, like with the new facility, it's been super awesome.
I find this also interesting. This the theater nerd, learning about things behind the scenes is just so intriguing to me. So what is daily life for all of you? So the show's running, you're now running, and then like you now have time. What's a daily life? What's a routine? Do you have routines?
Yeah, you have routines, I think. Yeah. You sleep in as long as you kind of want. And enough, like in time for lunch, I mean, the good part about being a performer on a ship, of course, also is you have the days free for the most part. So you're able to go out and explore and go see the country or the island or the city that you're in. It's not a luxury that everyone working on ships has, which is really sad, actually. But it's really, I mean, for me, I saw the world, and it's something that, I saw places I never thought I would. So I think that's really what a daily life is sleeping in, going out and seeing stuff, doing the show, having a party, and then doing it all over again. I did.
The entertainer life, as Emily is describing, is really an ideal thing. And to be honest, sometimes, entertainers on ships, they're given a little bit of a hard time because you have 90% of the other crew members on the ship who are working every single day, 10 hours a day. They rarely get to go off the ship. It's difficult, and that, you sign up for your role and that's your role. But it is, in my opinion, especially, I mean, looking at this panel here, you've all worked since you were children so hard as a performer. This is now a wonderful reward. Yes, you're working your butt off and performing on a stage that you jump up and when you come down is in a different spot. But you're getting to experience the world, and you're putting the cherry on top of the vacation for all of these people. So, you know, some people can look at it and say, oh, what a good life. And then you say, yeah, but I earned it. I worked to get here.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's the thing. A lot of people, a lot of crew members who are not in entertainment, they don't know that side of the journey. They see that the reward. They don't know what it took to get there. And that is, it's a fine line of like being respectful of them not understanding that, and like being like, yeah, it is what it is, or, you know, and not getting upset by it.
Yeah.
Simone, you were smiling a lot throughout that process.
I mean, I think a lot of, there's just so much, I don't know, I never thought a cruise ship job when I first started would be like so much joy in it. And like, I think like the performance aspect, of course, but I mean, even like the guest interaction was something that I just like really, really loved. Oh my God, there I am. Okay. My hair is so big. Like, I think the focus on guest interaction and like meeting so many people, like even now at shoreside personnel, I get messages from guests I've met that are like, hey, I'm going on this ship. Are you going to be there? And I'm like, oh no. And then I'll like send some fruit to their cabin just to be like, hey, that's like, thanks for thinking of me. And that's a really big takeaway from me, no matter what. Like, I just love always meeting different people. And I think as entertainers, we're all in the hospitality business when we're not working, like bartending or hotels. And I think cruise ships merge that. And like, I'm a nerd and I love that. Like, so it really, I don't know, it's brought me so much joy. And like, even till now, like moving into these new positions, like always been, I just feel like, again, very blessed to be a part of this and be able to continue in the industry, right?
So you talked about guest interactions. One of my questions was going to be, what was one of the most interesting guest interactions that you've had? And then the follow-up, you know, do you stay in contact with that guest based on the experience? So does someone have a story about a guest interaction? Jen,
I
please.
have a recent story. I charge up, girl, charge up. I recently had the opportunity to go on an install during a world cruise. And so what that means is there's guests who've signed up for, you know, to be on that ship for like 70 or 80 days. They're doing a huge, you know, around the world or around continents kind of thing. So, you know, you get a different kind of guest. When they know they're going to be on that ship for a long time, they know that they're going to be talkative, and, you know, you get a different kind of person. And it was the first time that I did that. And, you know, I kind of go and I'm a social person, but I'm sometimes have my blinders on, and I had the opportunity to really get to know several guests and, you know, retired. We'll say retired. But, you know, what's funny is I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation with somebody who's, you know, an older woman or something. And I go, oh, where are you from? And she goes, Florida. And I say, no, you're not. Where are you from? She goes, oh, well, Brooklyn, but I left Brooklyn 60 years ago. And I said, well, it didn't leave you. Or, you know, there have been people who've seen me in a show in Smithtown. Anyway, so I recently had a great opportunity, and I met a woman, and I just spoke with her on the phone because she got off the ship and she wanted to tell me all about it. And she got so close with so many of the performers and the crew members, and you get that one-on-one experience. I mean, imagine living on a ship with the same people for 80 days. So those things are very rewarding, especially because I've got one grandparent left. You know, I kind of feel like every time I go, I kind of get a few more grandparents that I have in reserve, you know. Very nice.
Absolutely. One of the cool things about working with Disney is they have their Make-A-Wish program. So a lot of kids' wishes are to come on a Disney cruise, and which is amazing. It's sometimes heartbreaking because just being the situation that they're in, you know, sometimes it's the last family cruise that they go on, and the last vacation that they are able to go on. And it's so incredible to be around these kids because some of them are hit with the most hardest things that a child should ever go through, and that child should never go through. And a lot of them come with so much joy and so much life in their eyes, and to kind of help them experience the magic of Disney, and they very much change you, and more than you will have an impact on them.
Yeah.
You meet these kids who are just some of the happiest children who, you know, get a sticker from someone and it has made their day.
Aw.
So it was such a cool experience to kind of work with these kids and make magic for them at some of the hardest times of this family's life.
Aw, that's sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
So because you're in the cruise industry, you've gotten to, you know, travel the world and go to some pretty incredible places. Where have each of you been that's memorable for you?
Oh,
I know there's so many.
I mean, the list, what's amazing is, you know, the list of countries and places I haven't been to is now shorter than the list of places I have been to. And I would never thought, I mean, it's 10 years ago, I would never, ever have thought that I would have seen so much of the world.
yeah.
I had no idea about this industry at all. So, I mean, I've got some artifacts, Greece, Santorini, some Morocco, some Mexico. I got Magna. You should see my fridge, the magnets. Forget about it.
I would say the place that stands out in my mind the most, a place I never thought I'd go was India. Also the Emirates, so Abu Dhabi and Dubai were places that, I mean, I just never thought in my lifetime I'd go to. And they're, you know, not like this world either, those places, in good ways and in some bad ways, depending on where you are. But those are two places that stick out to me that I'm like, wow, I actually can't believe I went there. Yeah. Crazy.
Simone, do you have
Well, I've only I mean, it sounds ridiculous the way I'm even thinking of saying. I've only ever done Eastern Western Caribbean, which is awesome, and I love St. Martin. It's like my favorite place.
Me too.
But the funny thing is, when I started cruise ships, I'm like, I used to hate the beach. Like, I used to hate it. Like, and I'd be like cranky if I went to the beach. But now I'm like, I just love it.
Mhm.
My wife
Same.
did a European run. I know she did all that side of the world, but I never got to do one of those. But it's all good. Travel there for auditions now, so it's good.
Yeah, cool.
St. Martin's definitely my favorite.
I love the Caribbean too. I mean, I've been all over the world and I still go. Just put me on island time forever. Like, I'm great with that. But, you know, I've been lucky enough to even, you know, see places like Pompeii, Ephesus. I mean, these places where I'm sure I learned about them in school, but I was never very good at history. But having been to these places, I get it. You know, I know the history of these places because I've been there. It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
So what's a standard contract? So like, I know that some people are on ships for 6 months, 8 months. Like, what's like a standard contract in the industry? And then the follow-up question is, let's say, for example, you're on a show and you want to stay for the next contract. How does that work? I mean, can you? Are you even able to?
With Disney, we do 2 months of rehearsing, and then a standard is really about 6 or 7 actually on the ship. And we're all part of one. The entire cast comes together, and then we all leave the ship all at once. And if we wanted to come back, we would have to kind of wait for that next cycle to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, we're all one unit. Come on, and leave all together.
Simone, you were.
Oh, no, go.
No, go ahead, Emily. Sorry.
I was going to say about like the next contract. Usually, either your company will reach out to you and say, we have these contracts available. Do any of these interest you? Or you even reach out to them. What's available for the next year, or what's available in 2 years? This year is not good for me. And I know with me, they were really good with that. And they were good, like, me and my husband wanted to stay together on the ships, and they were very good with making sure that we were in the same cast. Like, they wouldn't offer a separate contract. We'd be on the same contract together. I think a lot of ships are like that as well, that they're really, able to work with you if you want to be on a contract with someone specifically.
I was going to say that before when Simone said she's been with the company for so long. It makes sense because the perks that you can get being with, having a spouse and trying to get the same ship is going to be, you're going to have more luck with doing that in the company that you've been with for a long time. But like you were saying, your contract, with one company might be up and then you have to wait a certain amount of time for another one. So that's another reason that I always encourage performers to do the other auditions and try to, get into other cruise lines so that you do have that. If you're like, you know what, I'm not going to have another contract for how many months, let me go do a little replacement 3-month thing, because that's another thing is, people get hurt or sick or who knows. And so a contract, like I think Bobby mentioned that you might have been on a replacement, you think, because it may have been shorter. So, you can have, shorter contracts for circumstance reasons or whatever,
Simone, you were going to chime in.
Oh no, our length of contracts, we try to stick to 6 months. And the rehearsal period all depends on how many shows and the length of like the run. There's some ships that have 2 shows, there's some ships that have 4 shows, some have 5. So that, like, if you're on one of our bigger ships and it has 4 to 5 shows, your rehearsal period will be longer. So it all depends, but then you should relatively about 6 months on board.
Does the performer do more than one production? Do they do 2? Do they do all of them? Like, how does that work?
Well, for Carnival, playlist production cast, they all do all of the shows.
Yeah,
Nothing
that was like mine too. There's like one show ensemble on the ship, and they do all the shows.
Yeah,
and then even like they have us singing sometimes in the bar or in this area of the ship, or doing like a pop-up performance on the pool deck. Stuff like that. So yeah, we would pretty much do all the entertainment for the most part.
There are some other cruise lines, like Norwegian started getting the book shows right as I was leaving. They were starting to replace the production cast formula with, Legally Blonde was there when I was with Norwegian, and $1 Million Quartet. So if you do get one of those contracts, you tend to kind of be in really just that show or maybe one other show. But the production cast, if you can get a show where you're doing these review shows for, 2 to 5 different shows that you've got under your belt. I mean, it's amazing what these performers can do and how much they can keep in their head and keep cranking out these performances every week. What show are we doing? Did I do this already? Is this at 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock? So it's a lot to do.
Yeah.
Why do you think cruise ships shifted from doing like a review type show to a book show?
Variety. I think variety, and I think I think Rock of Ages was one of the first ones that Norwegian put on, and I think Royal has Hairspray, and I think it was just because the music reviews are fantastic, but depending on the demographic, like I know Norwegian's ship, the Breakaway was going on in New York, and they said let's put Rock of Ages on, and we want this adult crowd and something different. It's people go to the same ships over and over. They go on that particular ship and then they expect to see different shows every time they show up. They don't understand that you can't just change the show every time they're coming on a cruise, Yeah. Welcome to my life.
So Jen and Simone, you have, because you've been working longer than the rest of the panel in the cruising industry. Simone, you started as a performer and then as a singer, and then you went from a singer to a singer and a dancer, and now you're working in production casting. So why did you make the jump over?
Well, I mean, I know I wanted our last contract to be like go out bang, 10 years is good. Like, it's been a long time. And I think as a couple, we didn't want to hang up our shoes, but it was just time. And it was, we had an opportunity to move into the shoreside team. They created a new position at the time in 2017. It was a show supervisor. So they had reached out to me for the interview, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to jump at that because it sounds like awesome. I could still kind of do ships, but then we can have a normal life on land. And so then I took that position, and I was the person taking the casts on and doing that. And actually, just recently, I moved into casting and booking in January. So December was when it kind of started to move, and so January is when I took over.
So Simone, you we were talking because you also said that there are auditions coming up at some point for Carnival once you guys you launch. So if anyone on the broadcast or even some of the actors here who are on this panel who are looking to get back in the working, the website is here, carnivalentertainment.com/auditions. So and you have an in. You could name drop. Her name is Simone. That's totally awesome. So so Jen, you also started as a production stage manager, and then you moved into company management, right, for the larger ships. How are those roles different, and
so
what does that mean?
Basically, company management was actually something that I was not even hardly familiar with before I got onto ships. There were professional theaters, there were only a few on Long Island, equity theaters or things that required a company manager. So that was something that I kind of fell into, because on the bigger Norwegian ships, I mean, you're talking, you've got maybe 50, 60, 70 performers, and you've got several different venues. So you have there's a distinction between usually people who are running the theater and who are managing crew and performers behind the scenes. So I was able to really get a fantastic sampling. I got my foot in the door. I mean, it was the most amazing thing. I was teaching and I went on vacation to visit my best friend, went on a cruise, walked off with a job offer. And I just said, okay, this is going to be my next career. And so I started as, kind of an administrator position. And then very quickly they said, you have a lot of theater experience. And it just turned into company management. I was making sure that everybody was where they needed to be, knew about their trainings, knew about time changes, all of that stuff. And then I was able to go to some of the smaller ships and actually run the theaters on those ships. And I had tech crews underneath me. And I was also the company manager, but I was overseeing the bigger operation, which just, was awesome, was something that I feel like I was kind of training for a long time, and I didn't even know it.
Nice.
So I've been on cruise ships. Maybe I've gone on about 10 cruises, and there's an entertainment cruise director, and then there's a cruise director. What's that structure?
There are so many different structures. There really are. I know that Disney, right, has the normal cruise director is the face of the thing. Holland America recently changed over to a different kind of travel-based thing. But yeah, cruise director I know is I think within all the lines is pretty universal until up to recently.
Yeah, we have a cruise director who's the face of the ship, and then we have an entertainment director who's kind of the overall manager of all entertainment. So, which is helpful because then the cruise director can just do his thing. Yeah, and the entertainment director kind of manages all of us, which is great.
Yeah, we kind of had a similar thing. We had there was the entertainment manager who was, would announce the shows and would also look after us and everything, and was more the exterior. And then it was just the office entertainment manager. So would just do their paperwork pretty much. Yeah, we also have two kind of roles to run it all.
Yeah, as Jen said, the cruise director we have one cruise director who is part of the actual steering committee as well, because Disney is solely entertainment based, where they're actually a part of the overall management of the entire ship.
So it's like a steering committee of like an overall experience of like what all guests will experience on the cruise for the week.
So steering committee is like the captain of the ship, the hotel director of the ship. It's all the different departments.
Department heads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds so fancy. Steering committee.
Not a big word.
So depending upon the cruise line, I know that some performers have to do a lot of different things, on the first day when people are boarding, doing the drills or throwing on the life, showing you how to click the life jacket together. What's some of the jobs that you have done working on the ship besides a performer?
So we had to do, it was only like every few months you had to do check-in. It was just to show that the performers are doing something during the day. So every few months you'd have to do check-in, and all you would do was stand behind the check-in desk and just like hand the people that are actually checking in people like cruise cards. You literally did nothing. Or you would stand by the hand sanitizer thing and go, welcome. We had that. And then on my first contract, again, that was when I went to India. And so when we were in Mumbai, it was a very it was a risky area, and there was a lot of, they didn't want people, it sounds horrible, but they didn't want people like climbing the ship and stuff like that, because other ships have had that experience, because since it is a very poor area, sometimes people will see this big, beautiful cruise ship in a port and they'll try to get on board. So they actually had us doing this job. This was another thing that like they had us do it like maybe once, and then they were like, you don't really need to do this. We would stand on one of the sides of the ship with a walkie-talkie that goes to the bridge, and the bridge is like where they steer the ship and all that. And we would just have to like look at the dock and just make sure no one's climbing the ropes down the ship. I'm not kidding.
I'm just imagining these like Indian guys coming in, like trying to get by Emily. She's like, Captain.
Like you're really putting me in that position. Oh, wow. Really, really good. And I remember when I did it, so they were like, okay, like this is how you use the walkie-talkie, like in case like you need anything. Great. Okay, I had like a whistle. And I remember they taught me how to use the walkie-talkie, but I don't know how to do anything like that. So I have to check in. Like when I first get to my spot, you have to call them and be like, I'm here. So I called them and I said, I'm here. And then apparently the whole time I was pressing buttons on the thing. I didn't know calling it. And like there was like this big thing. They're like, what's going on? Like, is something happened? I'm like, no, like, everything's good. So they're calling like the emergency button, please stop. I'm like,
thank you to Emily for no one ever having to be in that position ever again, because she ruined it for the class. Thank you.
They
in a
were
good
like,
way.
we don't need, they just wanted us to do something. That's what it was. And they were like, it's okay. And it was also at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God.
By the way.
In the dark?
Yes, in the dark. Yep.
Yes, in the dark. Oh my God, that's crazy.
So that's what I had to do. What about you guys?
Oh boy.
So we
You
have
have to do tendering, you guys?
Well, for us, we have a lot of like duties at Playlist. Like there's some extra duties. Like we have an event. It's like we have Dr. Seuss. So like we have an event where Playlist performers are part of that. Dancers do tenders. Dancers do dance class. Singers normally will sing with the band as kind of an extra duty, kind of just to keep. It's more like I said before, guest interaction. So like all our like duties are kind of like guest related. We do have to do like on Embark Day, we welcome the guests. It's and like kind of help them out and make sure that, because they're like, I'm on vacation, I don't know what to do. So we help them find where to go. And it's kind of nice because again, like it helps us start off our cruise. Like, oh my God, come see our show. So it's really like gets the guests in there and they're like, oh, I remember you. You helped me out. So it's kind of pretty cool. But we do have duties.
Andrew Burke just chimed in. Just act like you know what you're doing.
Honestly, though.
Hi, Andrew Burke.
And my first, they tried to convince me that fog watch was a duty.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Got you.
I fell for that. I fell for that.
Wait. Tell us the joke, because I don't get it.
About.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Bobby, are you still here? Let me see if he's still here. He was frozen for a little bit. Well, we'll bring him back in once he's back. I know what happened.
We do character greeting because we have all of our VIP characters and a couple other characters on board. So we'll do. We have to fulfill 7 hours a week. So it's usually like either like an hour a day or kind of mixed up. And then we're in charge of all of our assembly stations. So we run all of the guest drill, which is super fun to stand in front of, 350 people who just want to go up to the bar, and you have to have your life jacket on. They're not listening to
your hat.
And your hat. Yep, your hat and your life jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please listen.
Hold up your clipboard. You have your clipboard.
Yep, clipboard. We had clipboards. So by the we just recently got these like cool Madonna mics where like there's a huge headset with this pack that was on the side that like broadcast.
Disney is so fancy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Huge like lollipops with Mickey's head with like A on it and all these crazy actions.
Cute.
Bobby, can you hear us, Bobby? It looks like he's having a difficult time with his internet. Bobby, move to another place in your house. Possibly your connection will be better. So I'm going to drop you out of here because it's his face is in that. It's not moving around. It's okay. He's trying to come back. Okay, so I would ask everybody, what's coming down the road for you? So Simone, I know you're working in casting. Like so now with the industry as what it is, it's all gonna restart at some point, right? So what's gonna happen once we get the yes, you can start to cruise?
I think everyone's got each individual company has their ramp up plan, and we just have to kind of ride it out and see what happens. It will come back, and we will be back, and
better than ever.
Better than ever, yeah, absolutely. We're still gonna keep the online auditions going and keep building our talent pool and getting the best talent on ships because it's like the best job ever.
And now is the time, right? Send in or do the videos, audition for everybody. Yeah. Just get out there. I'm so happy that you're doing this, Tim, because I didn't know a cruise. I never went on a cruise when I was a kid. So I had no idea about this industry until, there it is. Go do it because you never know. You really never know. What do you have to lose? Just audition. And you might travel the world. Go to India. Guard the ship. You never know.
And I feel like there had always been such a stigma with cruise ship performing. Where like if you heard, I'm working on a cruise ship, they're like, okay, have fun. But really, it's the level of shows that have come.
Production quality, everything.
Oh my god, it's incredible. Ships have stepped up. We have Broadway quality stages on a lot of these ships, where like they can do anything that they can do on Broadway, you can do on our ships, and some maybe even more. Exactly. And to think the stigma of cruise ships has to go away because it's an incredible experience where. Just from all these people that are here, you see the world on someone else's dime, just like you would do on like a tour or something like that. Cruise ships are exactly the same. There's no difference.
Yeah. Back to what you said about like the stages and stuff. I mean, all cruise ships have mechanical stages. I had one that had a turntable and it would raise up and down from underneath the ship and everything. Like, I mean, it really is the real deal, and it's true. Some people hear like cruise ship and they're like,
Yeah.
There's cutting edge technology. I mean, there's all lasers and projections, and I mean, there's so much. Everybody's flying everywhere, and it's so much. You know? I was even Broadway performers are performing now because they're like, I can actually get out of New York, so you get a really high quality talent like the people that you're seeing here, and so that stigma's got to go.
Yeah,
it's some of the most difficult content I think I've ever sang before in my life. Mm-hmm. Like the amount of like if you're not a tenor or like a mezzo belter, like you're gonna drown in the show, and like it makes you a better performer. Like I never thought in a million years I would be singing the stuff I was singing at the end of my performing career. Like it was insane.
Yeah.
Like I just think it's such an opportunity to earn and learn for so many people.
I was lucky enough to go on a Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas, and that was the ship that had it was a beautiful ship, but that was the ship that had the production of Hairspray, and then this beautiful production called Flight. And I will tell you, when you saw what they could do on that stage, I mean, they had an aircraft flying around the audience. I mean. It was crazy that for Hairspray they had, the thing come down where Tracy ran across the top of it and then it went back up. I mean, it was full video walls, like literally 50 feet. And I remember being on Holland America where it had the video wall that was literally all around you on all sides.
I'm so glad you saw that. Yeah, that's a show that my company produced, the Step One. Yeah, isn't that just, you would never expect that on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be sitting and looking at the audience, and then like in your peripherals, you normally when you're in a Broadway house, you're seeing the walls and the crazy people sitting next to you. But when you're on the cruise ship, it was all around you, and you're like, oh my goodness. where am I? I'm on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, and this is the production that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I was going to ask a question, which was that, there are times when you're performing and it is a rocky night where the ship is going up and down, and you are expected to do that same dance number at, full out. Has anyone had an experience with rough waters?
Oh yeah.
Coming into account.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had 2 different shoes for every show.
Yeah.
Like your heels, your regular character heels, and then you had a flat shoe option. So that
you've got a rough sea. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't have we didn't have that. We had one set of shoes.
No.
But, I mean,
they said good luck.
Yeah.
But did you have like a rough sea version where you're like, oh, this lift is not safe, so we got to take this. If it's a rough sea, then you don't do this lift. Or...
Absolutely. Yeah, we had rough sea contingencies all the time for different things. Yeah.
They modify.
Mine did not, and it was a restaurant show. And there was one time that, and a whole tray of food went on the ground.
Oh no! How do you improv through that?
It happened. I don't know that it was good, but it happened.
You just black out. You don't really know. I remember I had one time. It was on one of the smaller ships. And it was rough season. We were considering canceling the show, and then there was a leak coming on from the ceiling onto the stage. And I said, "Well, that's it." And there's actually a picture of me somewhere on Facebook of me on the phone with the whole thing down with this puddle on the stage. And I'm like, "Well, Captain, we're canceling." Come on, you have to do it. The things you're sometimes expected to do is like, do you understand what I'm doing? You can't even walk in a straight line, and I'm about to do this.
No way.
Yeah, no. We have a question from Ellen Dumlau. Is there an age limit for artists on cruise ships?
No, not on mine. I mean, I worked with people from, on my first contract, I was 19. The oldest person in my show ensemble, she was, at the time, was 34. But then you also have like the band, and we had a trio and a duo and stuff like that. And we had people up until like their 50s, 60s in the band and stuff. So no.
I think there's a minimum. I think you have to be 18 to work on it. But I think other than that, there's no age limit at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
No way.
And we're talking a lot about production casts and things like that, but, there's things where if you're like, well, I'm not much of a dancer anymore, or I've gone beyond that, I kind of want to be a jazz singer or a lounge singer or something. There's opportunities like that on ships as well. It may be through a different venue. You might have to go through a music casting agent, instead of Simone, it would be a different avenue. But there's so many opportunities. Just check all the websites out and just audition for everything. Just put yourself out there.
Absolutely. We've had a lot of like my friends that were in production casts with me that came back a couple years later and leading the band, and then they ended up being on ships for 5 more years, which was super cool. And they're still like, some of the shows, the band is in the production shows. So they still get that like stage feel, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a question from Andrew Burke. How do you guys predict the virus will affect cruising long term? Ships are offering insane deals right now because no one is traveling. Does anybody have a crystal ball to answer this question?
It's so hard to say. And I think, now if you're thinking of doing it, they're all offering really great cancellation policies anyway. So, at this point, I would say as long as you know that if it's not going to work out, for some reason, it does get canceled, you get your money back, do it. I think they're going to be very eager, and I think the companies are starting to come out, right, guys? The different companies are starting to say, oh, we're going to start doing a few ships in this, July, a few ships in August and things. So it can't hurt. I think the more people who start to purchase in advance, maybe that'll get things going, but who knows? The CDC is all up in ships right now.
My partner and I were supposed to go on a cruise March 27th through April 1st. And we unfortunately had to cancel, or we didn't cancel, the cruise ship canceled, and they gave a really great opportunity to people who had purchased. They gave 125% back as a credit
Amazing.
to use on a future cruise. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be on a cruise. I will take that
That's crazy.
25%,
That's
you know.
huge. Yeah.
That's so
And the
nice.
amount of money you can spend with, on a cruise is a lot.
That 25% just covered my internet. Thank you.
And people who cruise are like diehard cruise fanatics, and I think like they're like our loyal people are booking and booking and booking, which is like awesome. So I see a future for the cruise.
Well, that's the thing with the travel industry is that we are going to come back. I work in my businesses that I work in hotel site selection for national tours of shows that are on the road. And while right now we're in I'm just telling people we're in a hiatus because once this is solved, once we have a solution on what's going on, we are gonna come back. It is going to be amazing. We are going to be completely overwhelmed. There is going to be so much talent to see. There are so many opportunities that are going to be coming out of this, and just wait.
Yeah.
So it is now we're now at the 90-minute mark, but I want to play a game with everybody. So I let everybody know that we were going to be doing, because it's a fun game that we've been playing with everybody, which has been fun for me. I don't know if it's fun for everybody else, but it's called Do You Remember Your Lines?
Oh, that's great. Look at that.
Nope, I don't.
Look at that.
Do people everyone highlight over here? So
Might have a few musical theater international scripts with that highlighter in it.
I should have studied for this, honestly.
So do you remember your lines? As you can see, I made a joke last week. We spent the money on the graphic. So remembering your lines, Simone, we're gonna start with you.
Oh,
So Simone, I'm gonna tell you it's from West Side Story.
Oh God.
You played Anita with only 3 days left to rehearsal, as you shared earlier, and we're gonna do your lines. So this is the scene. I'm gonna give you the heads up. So this is the scene.
This is so embarrassing.
This is the scene where Maria is in the bridal shop with you, with your character. She's getting ready to go to her first dance, and she's asking you to make her dress for her. Right? Okay. So here we go. Are you ready, Simone? So, por favor, Anita, make the neck lower. Stop it, Maria. 1 inch. How much can 1 little inch do? Too much. Anita, it is not going to be a dress for dancing, no longer for kneeling in front of an altar.
I have zero idea.
With those boys, you can start.
With those boys, you can start by something and end up kneeling.
Yes. Yes. There you go.
Something like
You totally got it. With those boys, you can start off dancing and end up kneeling.
I mean, I can mimic Christina Diorda in that scene, but
Oh, really? Really? Let's see your Christina Diorda impression.
No.
Oh no!
I value it.
Until here. Simone, all right, so I'll go a little. Can you say again? Okay, so Simone, here's the second part. Ready? So Maria, she also has a mother and a father. They do not know the country any better than she does.
Oh my God, I have zero clue. I don't know.
You don't know it at all.
You don't know it.
American girls are here to have fun.
Here to have fun.
She is an American.
She is in America now.
Yeah.
Spanish accent. Ooh.
It was very good.
I'm sweating.
Are you really? Okay, well, moving on. So, Simone, thank you for playing. Do you remember your lines? We're going to go to the next one. Bobby, you ready?
Okay.
So, Bobby, you played Horton. You played Horton. Do you remember the first paragraph that Horton says? He says, "I say, how confusing. I never heard tell. of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. Do you know what's next?
But I know there are persons down there in what? Oh my God. I'm like panicking, so I'm blanking. But I know there are persons down there, and what's more, quite likely there's 2, even 3, even 4.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Oh, is that
right? Okay. Emily, you ready?
Sure.
Okay, so Emily, you have a choice because I pulled 2 for you.
Ooh, okay.
You can either choose to do. I'm sorry, it's not fair to everybody else. You can either choose to do Liesel from The Sound of Music with the Rolf scene, or you can choose to do the bookseller with Belle, or you can choose the monologue from Maureen from Rent. Let's do the bookseller, shall we?
Okay.
Okay. I mean, if you've seen the movie, we all know this scene.
I
So
wasn't
Emily,
going to say the bookseller anyway.
you weren't going to say it, or you were?
I was.
Okay, so ready?
I think I'm going to be able to do this one. I think.
Okay, here we go. So, Belle, good morning. I've come to return the book I borrowed. Finished already?
I couldn't put it down.
What's next?
I thought that was it. I couldn't put it down. Guys, no.
Have you got anything?
Have you got anything new?
Not since yesterday.
That's all right. I'll take this one.
This one, you've read it twice.
Oh, but it's my favorite. Full of far off places and sword fights.
Magic spells.
Magic spells and far off places and magic spells. A prince in disguise.
Yes, exactly. Yay!
Oh my God, I'm shocked.
You did it. Do you remember your lines? You remembered your lines. Everybody, I know I've done this to a couple people, and some people find it really great, or some people are like. So, do you remember your lines? So Anthony, you played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
We were Belle and the Beast together.
Yes, we were.
Oh my God. Okay, well, hold on one second, everybody. Ready? I'm going to drop this. I'm going to drop this. I'm going to drop Jen for a moment. And it's just going to be the 2 of you. Ready? Here we go. So we're in the scene where Beast is asking Belle to come down for dinner, and Belle won't come down. Do you guys remember this? Do you remember this scene, Emily? Mm-hmm. You're getting 2 tests. So I'm going to say, stay where you are, Lumiere. Stand aside. I thought I told you to come down to dinner. I'm not hungry. I'm the master of this castle.
And you will join me for dinner.
But I don't want to. But I said
and
no.
I'm telling you, I'm not hungry.
And I'm telling you, I'm not hungry.
And so he says, you're hungry if I say you're hungry. Emily?
I said I'm not hungry.
Don't be ridiculous. What do you say? And then she says, you can't go around ordering people to be hungry. It doesn't work like that. And then what does the Beast say? I can. Besides, it's rude. You know what? Sometimes this goes over really well, and sometimes it goes over not as well as you planned. You know.
This is very entertaining. Very entertaining.
Jen, unfortunately, as I shared before, I don't have the text to
Alexander the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. What? Doesn't everyone have that script? Whatever.
Exactly. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have it, so I couldn't test you. But I will ask you this. So everybody, Jen, please lead off. What inspires you now to do what you do?
Seeing how it affects everybody. It's the same thing as doing a children's theater show and seeing a child in the front row and them just going, you know that you're changing their life. So you get to do theater, you get to still have kids or even people who've never seen a show in their lives, and they go on a cruise, and they go, wow, this is theater. So not only do we get to do the magic of theater, but we get to give people, often, I know it sounds cheesy, but the vacations of a lifetime. So even though we're there and you get another week and another week and another week, we're really, this is not just, a travel, industry thing necessarily. It's really something that people invest in, and we then invest in the people. So it's just being able to do that and seeing how much people who go on cruises can take from theatrical experiences.
Simone, what is the best advice that you've received?
The best advice I've received?
Yeah.
Well, I remember when I went on my Carnival Cruise auditions, they're like, don't accept that contract. And I think the best thing I ever did was not take that advice.
Mm.
And I think ever since my first contract, I said, I want to be in casting and booking. One day I'm going to be part of the casting department, because I want to change that. One of us was talking about like changing that culture for people, and going, like, a lot of my friends from New York are like, oh, I'll never do a cruise ship. Like, I will never understand why, because even speaking to all of you, like, we've all had our individual experiences, but I think we share in the passion of performing. And I think giving people that experience, like Jen said, sometimes none of them have even seen a show before. And then they go, what is this in the bingo theater? Like, I'm seeing this amazing production show, and that's their taste of theater. And now they'll take that on. And the next time they contact, oh, hey, I saw you on another ship. I actually saw a Broadway show because I love it. I think the best thing I ever did was not take some advice, I think, is the answer to your question, because it's changed my life in so many ways. And every step of the way, I've grown with the company. My career has grown, and it's not just performing. It's everything else that goes with it. It's the experience. And I think giving back that experience to guests is like super rewarding. And I totally agree with that, Jen. I babbled, sorry.
No. It's amazing. It's great. It's great advice. Emily, what has been the biggest obstacle you've faced working in the entertainment industry?
The biggest obstacle is actually following my own path, rather than the path that people expected me to go down. I think within the past few years, I've ventured a little bit away from theater to just more music and stuff like that, which is something which actually one person that did say I should always do that was Patrick Grossman. But besides that, I think when and also I think the cruise industry was a big part of that, is because I was doing not book musicals, I was doing reviews and stuff like that, and I was doing Broadway stuff here and there, but it was the pop reviews and the rock reviews and all that kind of stuff that really like spoke to me. So I think taking my own path and not letting other people's expectations of me get in the way. Because I think I made the perfect decision, and I'm very happy where I am in the work that I do. Yeah. And back to what Simone said, actually, I had the same experience when I booked my first cruise contract. My agent was like, don't do it. Don't do it, whatever you do. And I was like, I'm 19 years old. Like, come on. What am I really going to get right now? Let me take this. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm so young. I might as well. And it was the best decision I ever made by far. So, yeah.
Bobby, what advice would you have for someone who, because you just did your first cruise contract, what would you advise people, who want to get into cruising that you've experienced?
Do it.
Show up and audition. Honestly, like my first big audition in the city was for Disney Cruise Line, and I was 19 and so underprepared, and like it was like traumatic. I felt like I shouldn't go back and audition for them for a little bit. I was like, they're going to remember me from 6 years ago. And it was, and there he is. And then it was so funny. I had just been in tech for Sunset Boulevard at the Engelman, and that Monday, that was the audition for Disney. And I was like, I almost didn't even go. I was like, I'm so tired. I don't feel good. Like, this is like, ugh, am I really? And then I was like, no, just go. And I wound up getting it. And it's just showing up and doing the work and be nice. Be nice. Be nice to everyone that you come into contact on the ship. Be humble and just be prepared. And it sounds like so silly to say these like very fundamental things about like being an adult. Like, if you have a bad attitude, people are going to know. If you're not nice, people are going to say things about it. It's just show up, be prepared, and work your butt off, and just be grateful.
That's the message that we've heard countless times here on CM Spotlight, and I think that's the reason why I think we have so many successful people who have come through CM's doors. Because it's like Sonny Palladino, who works in a completely different side of the industry. That was the one thing that he said, that you need to be nice to every single person that you meet, because people will hear about you. Yeah. And if people want to work with people who are easygoing, that want to come out with a great product and are easy to work with, and I think what everybody has been saying here is just so true, and I think that's a really great message, that we have all these incredible people who are polite, respectful, highly accomplished individuals who are working in the theater and really representing CM incredibly well. So I would ask you now, with performing at CM, doing having your life at sea, and and performing and being in that environment, what do you think about CM now? What does it mean to you now?
Is the beginning. It's what started all this for me. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for CM, because CM gave me endless opportunities that I don't think I would have got anywhere else. So I don't think I'd be able to do this at all without it. Yeah.
Agreed.
It's such an important theatrical landmark on Long Island. We've seen other theaters kind of come and go. We've worked at them. And sometimes they'll change, sometimes management will change or whatever. CM has been strong, and even when we lost Noelle, the fact that he had built this family that then picked it all up and has built it to be what it is now, and I just can't wait for it. I'm so happy to be, contributing to it, and be able to be a part of this with you, Tim. But it's really such a huge staple of Long Island theater. Think about all the people who've come from it.
Yeah.
Awesome. What is everyone's? So we're gonna wrap up very soon. What is everyone's motto? What's if you had a motto? What's your motto?
Carpe diem.
Go big or go home.
Show up.
Keep moving forward.
Trust the process.
That's a good one.
Mine is living.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta keep living and enjoying life. Yeah. So guys, we end each of these episodes with the actor studio questions. Maybe you've seen them before, maybe you haven't, but just chime in if you connect with a question. Chime right in. It'll be our first answer, and we're gonna move right through them. So it's just the first thought. Throw it right out there, and we're gonna move through them real quickly. So. The actor studio question, I'm going to put on my James Lipton hat and throw this out to you. Ready? So what is your favorite word, everybody?
Pal.
Pal.
Laugh.
Bananas.
Chihuahua.
What's your least favorite word?
Poop.
Inappropriate.
So your least favorite word, or you just...
Oh, it's just inappropriate. The word inappropriate.
No, that's the word. My least favorite word is the word inappropriate.
In life, what turns you on?
Passion, excitement.
Music.
Yeah.
In life, what turns you off?
Pessimism.
Negativity.
That's a good one.
What sound or noise do you love?
Negativity.
What?
I think it's delayed.
Kids reacting to theater is my favorite thing. Go, Bobby.
So I asked the question, what sound or noise do you love?
My cat's meow.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Oh,
Somebody
but
falling down.
at the same time. That's a good.
Simone, what
What
did
did
you
you say, Simone?
I said a bunch of people warming up at the same time. In breezeway tip, just like everyone singing.
Ooh.
What's your favorite curse word?
Ass face.
I don't know if I can say it on here.
Same.
What profession other than the one you do would you like to attempt?
Personal trainer.
Probably something in culinary.
Veterinary.
Dog walker.
Ooh.
Nice. What profession would you not like to do?
A doctor. Even though it's
Housekeeping.
veterinary.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Here are all the puppies for you to pet.
The cafeteria is to the right.
Karaoke's just starting.
I'm taking that one.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this talk this evening. I really appreciate you taking the time. It was great to learn a little bit about your lives working on and entertaining on the high seas. And I wanted to say on behalf of the organization, as a lot of people have chimed in on the Facebook page, thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
It's so fun. I loved this.
Thank you, guys. Well, I'm going to close out and I'll be right back. So everyone, thank you to our panel. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Next up on CM's Spotlight, we are going to have a conversation, an important conversation. It is called Onward and Upward, a discussion with CM's board of directors, executive and artistic director on the status of the organization, so that you can hear how we're doing during this pandemic, what's going to be happening in the next couple of months, and things that are happening in our doors. And then following on June 11th, CM Spotlight is excited to be bringing back our original Pink ladies with Lori, Beth, Belkin, Schneider, who played Jan, Lisa Macchia, who played Marty, Ronelle Goodman-Hills, who played Frenchie, and Christina Diorda, who played Rizzo. We've had a couple of Christina Diorda broadcasts, and she will be here to do that with us. So as we close, another reminder that if you have the opportunity down here, cmpac.com/donate, if you have an opportunity to please donate, please consider, bring in some money into CM, and we would incredibly appreciate it. You can go to cmpac.com/donate and go to our GoFundMe page. Any donation helps, and it will help us to continue our work once we are able to open the theater doors. So also don't forget, tomorrow night we have our launch party on this same channel, cmpac.com, on our Facebook or YouTube, and we will be talking about the upcoming season. So with that, this wraps up another CM Spotlight. Thank you so much for being here. On behalf of CM, our family, stay safe, be well, and we'll see you next week. Bye.